And the big story tonight, the House and Senate approved a 45-day funding bill to keep federal agencies open. Thank you for joining us tonight at 10. I'm Craig O'Neill. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy dropped his demands for steep spending cuts and relied on Democratic votes for passage. Michael George has a report from New York.
It's been a day full of twists and turns, but the American people can breathe a sigh of relief. There will be no government shutdown.
Late Saturday, the Senate voted to approve a 45-day federal spending plan. Earlier, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy crafted the measure and pushed it through despite opposition from hard-right Republican members of his own party.
The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The last-ditch effort, which averts a government shutdown for now, funds federal agencies and provides money for millions of paychecks through mid-November.
On the House floor, we passed by overwhelming numbers the ability to keep government open for the next 6 weeks. I asked Congress, we'll stay in session the next 2 weeks, continue to work to get this done.
To get the votes he needed, Kevin McCarthy relied on Democrats to help push through his temporary funding plan.
We went from devastating cuts that would have impacted the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people in 24 hours to a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people across the board.
The package leaves behind aid to Ukraine, which is a White House priority opposed by a growing number of GOP lawmakers.
I'm confident the Senate will pass further urgent assistance to Ukraine later this year.
But it increases federal disaster assistance by $16 billion, in line with President Joe Biden's request. Now it won't be long before lawmakers have to scramble once again to reach a long-term agreement. Michael George, CBS News.
Okay, and it bears repeating, the bill increases federal disaster assistance funding, but does not include aid for Ukraine or border security, which, as was mentioned there, would likely be taken up as a separate measure. That bill now goes to President Biden's desk for his signature.
Now, after a warm summer-like Saturday across the state, we're starting to see temperatures cool into the 70s, even 60s for a few locations. 77 right now in the capital city, even cooler over in Pine Bluff. 75, Camden down to 70 even. Clinton, one of those cities in central Arkansas, down to the 60s at 68 degrees. Now, we're going to keep up the summer-like pattern through the first half of the week. By Tuesday, we'll start to see some changes. Rain chances starting to pick up middle week. Below average temperatures expected by this time next weekend. We're going to lay out that timing and have your 7-day forecast coming up in a few moments, so make sure you stick around.
The Little Rock Police Department is investigating an officer-involved shooting overnight. Here's what we know right now. The shooting occurred near the intersection of Mablevale Pike and Mablevale Circle. The police department says one person has been hospitalized with life-threatening injuries. We'll continue to update you on THV 11 and THV11.com as we learn more. An investigation underway in Searcy County after marijuana cookies were found and eaten by students at Marshall High School. Law enforcement and medical personnel responding Friday after the THC-infused cookies were reported. Officers discovered a student brought those cookies to the campus from his home. 3 students ate them. This is an ongoing investigation, and at least one student is being questioned by investigators. Almost 60 stolen cars recovered this year. It's an impressive number for one White County Sheriff's detective, but the reason why so many cars are being stolen in the first place, that's what he's focusing on. THV 11's Ian Russell spoke with that detective to figure out what's going on and how you can keep your own vehicle safe.
You know, I've been victimized myself. I've had 2 cars stolen.
At the White County Sheriff's Office, Detective Kenneth Booth is determined.
I take it personal.
Working to recover stolen vehicles is this man's specialty. Luckily for those whose cars have been stolen, he's pretty good at it. 59 recoveries just this year.
If I'm trying to help someone and I can't get any leads or I'm having a hard time, it'll keep me awake at night. I do really get into it.
When you hear about how people are stealing cars, whether that's in White County or not, it makes sense why he and the rest of the Sheriff's Department is focused in on this.
A lot of the ghost vehicles that are coming into the state, that are stolen with a homemade title out of another state. Here's one from Texas.
Ghost vehicles, ones that have their VIN number swapped for another car. And in some cases, Booth says he's even seen ones coming from across borders.
A large number of vehicles coming in are coming from Canada.
Yeah, you heard that right. Booth says he's seen thieves use a VIN number from Canada after they get an Arkansas title to throw law enforcement off. But he says there's telltale ways to spot a fake.
A lot of times you'll see misspellings or a different color in the background.
And once they know a car is stolen, Booth says it's typically not a matter of if they can catch it, but when. Technology they use can pick up anything they need to look for. I asked him to find white Chevy Silverados, and
in this case right now we're looking at 1,800 cameras. So I could narrow it down, but it's going to show every white Silverado or white Chevy pickup.
Booth admits it's a racket that thieves know how to exploit, but the easiest and best way to make sure your car isn't a part of this is to just go back to the basics. Lock your doors and take out your valuables.
One thing that I would recommend for people, you've got a $90,000 car, put a tracker on it. You know, the tracker will cost you $13 a month, but they're so sensitive, someone opens the door at night, it's going to send you an alert.
In White County, Ian Russell, THV 11 News.
And by the way, Booth also recommends you take your newly purchased vehicle to law enforcement so they can inspect it to make sure you haven't accidentally bought a stolen car. Well, we are now getting a look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders' $19,000 podium that has brought on an audit from a Republican state senator. And the governor's office provided us this picture of the podium. We asked if we could come up there and get our own pictures, but we were denied. The cost and the way the state paid for it have been questioned by blogger Matt Campbell, who published emails focusing on the purchase. This was on his Blue Hog report. And now State Senator Jimmy Hickey wants auditors in the legislative branch to answer questions about it.
Or it appears like there is, been some inconsistencies with what they've said, and then actually some of the stuff we've seen in writing. Also the timing of the way all of this has transpired.
Hickey will officially request the staff at Joint Legislative Audit start an investigation at their next meeting. That'll be on October 12th. The governor's office said in a statement Thursday they welcome the audit. Federal student loan payments are set to resume starting tomorrow after a more than 3-year suspension during the pandemic. However, borrowers may qualify for lower monthly payments under the SAVE plan. Some may even have a zero payment depending on how much they make and the size of their family. For the next 12 months, borrowers can also skip payments without facing the financial consequences or defaulting on their loans. A new name was added to the Arkansas Vietnam Veterans Wall this afternoon after one Marine gave up his life years ago for his country. THV 11's Rebecca Brown has more on how his sacrifice has left a huge impact on people's lives.
They say history has a way of repeating itself. 54 years ago, we recognized Corporal John Edward Hazelwood for giving his life for his country. Now, several decades later, he's being recognized again for the legacy he's left behind. Through these pipes comes out a mournful sound of Amazing Grace as a community gathers to honor a hero who sacrificed his life for his country 54 years ago.
His dynamic leadership and determined actions inspired all who observed him and were instrumental in the accomplishment of this unit's mission.
Through a gesture of respect, flowers, and the tireless work of family and friends, Corporal John Edward Hazelwood from Prescott, Arkansas's name was finally unveiled on the Arkansas Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall.
By his extraordinary courage, bold initiative, and selfless devotion to duty, Corporal Hazelwood upheld the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and the United States Naval Service.
Hazelwood was killed in action on May 28, 1968 after fighting in the South Vietnam during Operation Allen Broke.
Throughout the ensuing battle, he moved from one man to another, offering words of encouragement and directing accurate fire at enemy positions until he was mortally wounded.
Hazelwood leaving behind his late wife, Shirley Engle, and at the time, his 6-month-old baby, Todd Engle.
That was a terrible, brutal war, and I feel so sorry that even that's got to leave everybody with scars.
It was told Hazelwood exposed himself to hostile fire as he ran 35 meters to the nearest tank and directed fire towards the enemy. Now his bravery providing relief to those he gave his very life for, as they honor and commemorate his sacrifice.
Very proud, especially to see his name here on the memorial. It was a great honor to be here.
Hazelwood was recognized by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and received a Silver Star and Purple Heart for his service to our country. In Little Rock, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
6 months after being hit by a tornado, and it's still all work, no play at a popular Little Rock destination. After the break, the ongoing recovery efforts still underway at Reservoir Park. Simone?
And we're going to talk about some changes coming up to the forecast. I have your 7-day outlook coming up in 3 minutes.